Patricia, you have some free time, right? If so, please prepare food for 20 people since we have relatives coming over.
As soon as she said that, she started fiddling with her smartphone, as if to say she wouldn't listen to anything I had to say. I was suddenly called over and given an outrageous request. She wanted me, her mother-in-law, to prepare food for 20 people all by myself. Normally, that would be impossible. But I have a special skill. Lucy probably wants me to fail and embarrass myself, but she has no proof that I can't prepare the food. I decided to showcase this skill that Lucy didn't know about and surprise her. My name is Patricia Jackson, a 65-year-old housewife. I live alone after my husband passed away. We had one son, Robert, who is already married and has moved out. At the time, I wholeheartedly celebrated Robert's marriage. His wife, Lucy, seemed very sweet, and I hoped we could get along well as a family, even though we were in-laws. However, reality was not so kind. One day, while I was relaxing at home, Lucy called me.
Patricia, can you come over? The housework has piled up. You have free time anyway, right?
It only takes about 10 minutes on foot to get to my son's house from mine, and I often interacted with them. However, most of these interactions were due to Lucy's unreasonable requests. Again? You said the same thing last week, didn't you? Aren't you being a bit too lazy? You're a housewife, right? I was so frequently called over that I couldn't help but respond in a harsh tone. Lucy, not hiding her irritation, replied,
Just come over already. We're family, aren't we? I'm asking for help, so you should help me. You should be grateful I married your son.
It's an everyday occurrence for Lucy to throw a tantrum. After Robert's marriage, I thought Lucy was a kind, quiet, and sweet woman. However, once I got to know her, I realized she was like a child who throws a fit whenever things don't go her way, trying to manipulate situations to suit her desires. Robert was also troubled by this, wondering what to do. No matter how much he scolded her, Lucy's tantrums only got worse. If we kept having these kinds of conversations every time we interacted, we wouldn't be able to handle it. But curing her tantrums wasn't an easy task, especially since she had no intention of reflecting on her behavior. So, when Lucy got angry, we often tried not to provoke her too much and would back down to calm her down quickly. All right, I'll come over, so please calm down. Lucy sighed and replied,
Patricia, you really are difficult. You should have just said that from the beginning.
Her tone started to show signs of calming down, and I sensed she was becoming more mentally stable. Honestly, I sometimes wondered why I had to do this, but since Robert couldn't handle Lucy, it couldn't be helped. I grabbed the minimum necessary items and headed to my son's house. As soon as I arrived at my son's house, there was Lucy standing at the front door with her arms crossed.
You're late, aren't you? You didn't make any stops along the way, did you?
She accused me. Indeed, I hadn't come straight to their house. Since it was almost dinner time, I thought I would cook for them. It's almost dinner time, right? If you're not in the mood for housework, I thought you might also find it hard to cook dinner, so I bought some ingredients. I said as calmly as possible, trying not to show any anger. If I made Lucy angry, it would only cause more trouble. Despite my efforts to speak gently, Lucy's face turned red with anger.
Why are you doing something so unnecessary? I didn't ask you to make dinner.
Lucy exclaimed. I couldn't help but let out a surprised "ha" at her sudden outburst. I was just trying to be considerate by preparing dinner. What did I do wrong? As I stood there, puzzled by the absurdity of the situation, Lucy continued.
Do you enjoy taking all my jobs away? If I lose all my tasks, Robert won't need me anymore. I won't have any standing as a housewife.
But you seem to be struggling with the housework. I tried to explain.
Don't do anything unnecessary. I'll make dinner, so throw those ingredients away. I won't let you make dinner.
Lucy pointed at the shopping tote I was holding. Throw them away? No way. I couldn't believe she wanted me to discard the ingredients I had just bought. I'm sorry for acting on my own, but throwing them away is a bit much, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and my posture low to avoid further upsetting Lucy. Lucy let out a big sigh and said,
All right, I'll let you cook just this once. But you have to say that I made it. You were just watching me cook. Got it?
In other words, she wanted me to cook dinner and let her take the credit. It was completely unreasonable. As I opened my mouth to protest, Lucy cut me off.
Oh, and you don't have a choice. If you don't like it, throw those ingredients away right now. You wouldn't want to waste food, right?
In the end, I couldn't bear to waste the ingredients, so I cooked dinner for my son's family by myself. Later, when Robert came home and the three of us sat down to eat, he praised the meal.
This dinner is really delicious.
Lucy briefly looked displeased but quickly put on a smile and said,
Everything went well today. I'm glad you liked it.
Even though I had made the meal, Lucy took all the credit. I was furious, but I knew that correcting her would cause a huge scene. So, I couldn't deny her words and could only say, You're amazing, Lucy, and praise her. After that, my relationship with Lucy gradually deteriorated. Being treated like a servant became the norm. My mind and body were exhausted, and there were many days when I felt unwell. I knew I had to do something about this relationship soon, but I had no idea what to do. Then one day, a turning point came. Early in the morning, Lucy called me and said,
Come to the house right now.
Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I went to my son's house, wondering what was going on. When I arrived, Lucy said something outrageous.
Patricia, you have some free time, right? If so, please prepare food for 20 people since we have relatives coming over.
I was stunned by her words. Food for 20 people? Now? By myself? According to Lucy, today was the day her 20 relatives were coming over for a meal at my son's house. But Lucy hadn't prepared anything and realized on the day that she couldn't get the food ready. So, she decided to rely on me. By myself? Lucy, aren't you going to help?
I'm busy. I have to do my makeup and stuff. But you can join us for the meal today. Not that anyone would care about someone as gloomy as you.
Her attitude was infuriating. Until now, I had kept quiet and accepted whatever attitude Lucy had, thinking it would cause trouble for Robert. But this was too much. My patience had run out, and I decided to start my revenge. "All right, I'll use the kitchen," I agreed quietly. Lucy smiled with satisfaction and said,
You're being very obedient today, Patricia. I wish you were always like this.
before lying down on the sofa and fiddling with her smartphone. It seemed she had already prepared to welcome the 20 relatives. No matter what I said now, Lucy wouldn't listen. But since I had already agreed, I didn't think of backing out. Lucy probably expected that I wouldn't be able to cook for 20 people and would end up embarrassing myself. However, I'm sorry to say that things won't go as smoothly as she hopes. When I entered the kitchen, I found that Robert had already bought most of the ingredients needed to cook for 20 people. As I looked over the ingredients, I quickly planned the menu. In fact, I used to work as a school lunch lady at an elementary school. I was used to preparing meals for nearly 1,000 people in the school kitchen, so I was accustomed to cooking large quantities of food quickly. Cooking for 20 people, even though I had to plan the menu, would be easy enough to complete by noon if I started now. According to Lucy, the relatives were coming in the evening, so I had some time to take it easy. Once I decided on the menu, I started cooking each dish, aiming to keep costs low while ensuring the food looked presentable. My habit from my school lunch lady days of making large quantities of food still lingered, and even now, I often ended up cooking more than one person could eat. Preparing food for 20 people was so easy that I found myself genuinely enjoying the cooking process. From time to time, Lucy would come to check on me and say things like,
Are you getting worked up? There's no way you can cook for 20 people, so you should just give up and apologize.
or,
The relatives would probably prefer fancy sushi over your cooking, so I'm not expecting much.
but I was so engrossed in enjoying the cooking that her words didn't bother me at all. Her comments were like flies buzzing around. Nothing more. I could sense that this was starting to annoy Lucy, and her mood was worsening. In the past, I would have immediately apologized and tried to appease her. But not anymore. I had decided to bring Lucy down completely. Imagining the suffering that awaited her, I couldn't help but smile. As time passed, Lucy's relatives started arriving one by one. Despite Lucy's rather unfortunate personality, her relatives seemed decent. Some even offered to help when they noticed me cooking in the kitchen. Every time someone kindly offered their assistance, Lucy would shoot me a sharp look as if to say, "Don't you dare accept." So, I politely declined, saying, "I appreciate the offer, but please just look forward to the finished meal." They responded warmly, saying, "We're looking forward to it." Although Lucy had treated me terribly, her relatives were innocent. I wanted to make sure they enjoyed the meal, so I put even more effort into my cooking. When I had finished preparing most of the necessary dishes, I checked the clock and saw that it was still a bit early for dinner. With some time to spare, I decided to make a simple dessert, especially since there were children among the guests. I chose to make crème brûlée, a dessert I had loved since childhood. The sight of the torch caramelizing the sugar on top had always fascinated me. I was sure the children would love it too. As I started working on the dessert, Lucy appeared in the kitchen.
Isn't it almost dinner time? Are you still not done? You're a bit slow, aren't you?
Lucy laughed mockingly at me. Since Lucy wasn't good at cooking, She probably didn't expect that I had already finished the main dishes and was now making dessert. It's still early for dinner, isn't it? Could you please wait a little longer? I retorted. This attitude seemed to annoy Lucy, and she snapped back.
If you can't do it, just say so. The relatives seem to be worried about you. Don't ruin this gathering, okay?
Don't worry, I can handle it. I'll finish everything and serve the food. I replied coldly, irritated by her constant interference. Lucy pouted and left, looking bored. She couldn't throw one of her usual tantrums in front of the relatives. With a bit of time to spare, I glanced into the living room and saw Lucy, in stark contrast to her usual demeanor, smiling and chatting amiably with the relatives. It was clear she was putting on an act. Just then, Robert, who had been at work, came home. As soon as Robert noticed that I was preparing everything by myself in the kitchen, he called Lucy over and asked,
What's going on here? Why are you relaxing while Mom is making dinner? Isn't that strange?
But Lucy, still smiling, replied,
Patricia said she wanted to do it, so I'm letting her. Besides, I'm busy entertaining the relatives.
To be honest, it seemed more like the relatives were entertaining Lucy. She was the one talking nonstop about her recent activities, while the relatives just nodded along. She didn't even refill their drinks when they ran out, so I had to step in and offer. It was far from what you would call hosting. Holding back his anger, Robert asked,
Mom, are you okay? I can't do much, but can I help?
But since the cooking was almost done, I replied, Thank you. I'm fine. It'll be ready soon. Both of them looked surprised. And no wonder. Cooking for 20 people alone is no small feat. Most people would have given up from the start, saying it was impossible, but I kept going. From early morning until now, it had been nothing but cooking, cooking, cooking. Even I was getting a bit tired of it, but I still had enough energy to enjoy it. In the process, I realized once again how much I love cooking. I was even grateful to Lucy for giving me the opportunity to rediscover this passion. Everything will be ready soon, so please wait a little longer. You should also take care of the relatives, I urged. Robert took Lucy back to the living room. Once they were gone, I finished the final touches. All right, it's done, I exclaimed. Finally, all the dishes, including the dessert, were ready. Hearing this, Lucy let out a surprised
What?
And rushed into the kitchen. There, she saw a large array of dishes laid out on the platters. These were the meals I had prepared throughout the day.
How? Why? There's no way you could have made food for 20 people in one day.
Lucy shouted, forgetting that the relatives were present. Hearing the commotion, the relatives came over and helped carry the dishes to the living room. The children exclaimed,
Wow, it looks delicious. I can't wait to eat.
Their excitement made all the hard work worthwhile, but Lucy still seemed dissatisfied.
Cooking is about taste, not just appearance. Since you rushed, it might look okay, but I'm sure it doesn't taste good. We should order takeout instead.
Lucy said anxiously to the relatives, clearly unhappy with the praise my cooking was receiving. It's quite harsh to judge someone's cooking as just looking good but not tasting good without even trying it. I wasn't the only one who thought so. A male relative gently admonished her.
Lucy, it's not right to say that when someone has cooked for you. You should be grateful and appreciate it.
His calm words were met with agreement from the other relatives, who said, "That's right." Lucy's expression twisted in displeasure, and I couldn't help but feel a bit pleased seeing that. Eventually, Robert called out,
Shall we eat?
and the relatives, except for Lucy, took their seats. Lucy, seemingly too frustrated to move, stayed where she was. I also wanted to eat the food I had prepared, so I excused myself and took a seat. After saying grace, everyone picked up their forks and started serving themselves from the platters. When someone said, "It's delicious," others echoed, "Delicious, delicious," expressing their joy. Seeing this, I felt that all my hard work had paid off. Just then, Lucy shouted,
Wait a minute. Maybe the food is poisoned. Patricia always harasses me. I asked her to cook today as payback. I thought she would refuse, but she made it so easily. There must be something behind this.
Everyone, including myself, was stunned by her outrageous accusation. Poison in the food? That was impossible. Besides, I had cooked everything in this house without going out to buy ingredients. If there were poison in the food, it would mean there was poison in this house to begin with. It's too much to say that the food I made is poisoned. Even if you don't like me, please don't say such things. I sighed. Lucy, looking annoyed, retorted,
But you're always mean to me. It's hard to believe that someone like you would quietly make dinner.
"I've never been mean to you. You're the one who has been treating me as an enemy. Stop making baseless accusations. Besides, the food is getting cold. If you're going to eat, you should do it now," I replied. My words seemed to irritate Lucy even more, and she started complaining loudly. It was so noisy that it was just a nuisance. Robert frowned in frustration, and even the children began to notice something was wrong, asking,
Aunt Lucy, what's wrong?
Sensing that the atmosphere wasn't good, I noticed that the food was almost gone and the children were slowing down. "So," I said, "we also have dessert," and took the unbaked creme brulee out of the refrigerator. The children's eyes lit up at the sight. When I borrowed the gas torch from Robert and caramelized the surface, there were exclamations of wow. The atmosphere was lively. Seeing this, Lucy seemed to realize she couldn't do anything more and sat down in defeat. The relatives, however, didn't seem to notice Lucy's state at all and were engrossed in the food, saying, "This is delicious, and that is delicious." Feeling completely defeated and with her pride shattered, Lucy sensed she couldn't stay there any longer and soon retreated to her room. No one, not even a single person, called out to her or showed any concern. Honestly, I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction. Thus, the dinner party was a great success. However, perhaps because Lucy was deeply hurt, her attitude towards me became even worse. She came to our house every day, hurling harsh words at me. Her behavior escalated to the point where even Robert, who had sensed our strained relationship, felt it was unbearable. Eventually, my son and Lucy divorced, and the house became Robert's. Lucy returned to her parents' home, but her parents, who had attended the dinner party, were furious with her and turned her away. Now, Lucy lives alone in a shabby apartment, making a living with a part-time job. As for me, I sold my old house and now live with Robert. Since then, I've rediscovered the joy of cooking and decided to start a cooking class. Surrounded by my students, I'm living a happy life. The events with Lucy were honestly quite challenging. There were many times I was worried, and being forced to do all the housework was unbearable. I also hated having my efforts go unrecognized. But the meal I worked so hard to prepare to bring Lucy down ended up bringing me happiness. Thinking about it, I'm glad I kept cooking diligently, and I feel proud of myself. From now on, I'll continue to cook many dishes. I want to approach each one with care and dedication, staying true to my love for cooking.
How did you like this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.